Keys. All right. Been doing these. Checking shit out. Oh. Thought you were an Uber rider. Okay. Something. Okay. Hold on. Maybe I stopped doing that. 'Cause this is real glitchy. Ah! Ah! No! Where am I going? Okay. Oh, I think I need to turn on. I have no idea what I'm doing. Actually, you know what? I'll be back. Okay. Ah. Stationary mode? Uh-huh. Okay. Wait, is that what that is? Okay, so I got this new controller. Not sure what those... How do I open the tour menu? Can't be that one. There's not that many buttons on here, are there? Boo! You're not eating these. These are not for you. Am I supposed to press something all at once? Two things together? No. Okay, I don't know how to do this. I don't understand which button that is. Ooh, okay.
Welcome, wanderer, to the democratic center of Athens, otherwise known as the Pnyx. My name is Aspasia. Though I am not originally from Athens, I have climbed to the top of its social ladder using my wit and intellect. I've even earned the love of Pericles, one of the most powerful men in the city. The mind truly is a beautiful thing. My name is Aspasia. Though I am not originally from Athens, I have climbed to the top of its social ladder
Did not mean
using
to
my
do
wit
that.
and intellect. I've even earned the mind truly. The Pnyx was the meeting place of the Athenian assembly and the physical embodiment of democracy at work. This tour will give you insight into how citizens made decisions and kept the city running. We can talk more when you have finished the tour. See you soon, wanderer.
The
The
Phoenix.
Athenian assembly was known as the Ecclesia. It met at the Pnyx 40 times a year to discuss various civic matters, and each session usually lasted a few hours. The word Pnyx is believed to mean something close to packed together. This was probably a reference to the fact that during meetings of the Ecclesia, the location would be filled to its capacity, with citizens packed in practically shoulder to shoulder. All male citizens were allowed to directly participate in the democratic process. Those over 20 years old had the right to speak and vote, while those over 30 could be elected to the higher position of magistrate. In total, there were approximately 30,000 citizens in Athens in the classical period. To draft and adopt decrees, 6,000 of them had to attend the meeting.
Oh, wow. Damn. That's a lot of people in a meeting. Most cities in the classical period functioned under the two forms of government, oligarchy or tyranny. Oligarchies were ruled by a small group of people. One example of an oligarchy is Sparta. Where a council of 28 elders controlled the majority of the political process. Tyranny, meanwhile, involved the ruling of a popular leader known as a tyrant. Tyrants would often seize control of cities in the face of external threats. Athens has experienced all three of these forms of government. Until 546 BCE, it was an oligarchy controlled by a few important families competing for political power. In 546 BCE, the aristocrat Peristratos seized complete power in the city with the help of a private army, and his family ruled as tyrants until their expulsion from Athens in 510 BCE. Democracy was established shortly afterward, woohoo, in order to avoid strife between aristocrats and prevent the rise of another tyrant. Ooh, the Greek marble throne. Modius and Aristogiton. Interesting.
Citizens came from all over Attica's 10 districts to attend the meetings of the Ecclesia. The meeting was presided over by an executive council called the Prytanes. Every session began with a sacrifice to Zeus Agireos, the patron of the assembly. During the meeting, citizens delivered speeches from the Pnyx's platform on whatever issues the city faced. Afterwards, the issue was voted on with a show of hands from the gathered assembly. The Ecclesia made important decisions about subjects like grain importation, expenses, and declarations of war. While they could not directly enact laws, they had a say in appointing Athens' legislators, which gave them a large role in shaping the city's daily operations.
Bema, a platform for the speeches on the Pnyx. In Aristophanes' comedy Assemblywoman, the playwright imagines a scenario in which the women of Athens seize control of the city's government and enact two major reforms: the abolition of private property and enforce sexual equality for old and unattractive women. Aristophanes' play treats the idea of women in the assembly as a joke, which is not surprising given that women were not allowed to be part of the assembly. However, women still played a public role in Athens in the form of religious rituals. Women were priestesses in over 40 major public cults, including the cult of Athena Polias, the Athens' patron deity. Some festivals, such as the Thesmophoria, which was held in honor of Demeter, was also reserved exclusively for women. Janny. Come on, time to go tonight. Yeah. Love the night time, 'cause then she gets a treat, good girl. 'Cause it's time to go night. Uh-oh. Alright, I gotta move that. 1 and 2. She can find those treats. She's had a long day of sneaking out of the house to go play in the snow. Okay. Back to this. Wait, is that the Clypodestra? In the 5th century BCE, all citizens would theoretically attend the Athenian assembly, which governed not only civic affairs, but also the affairs of an entire empire. Needless to say, managing the assembly was complex, and one of the main challenges was ensuring the meetings were conducted in a timely fashion. It was especially important that every citizen was given the same amount of time to speak. For this reason, a water clock, known as the clepsydra, was set up at the Pnyx to ensure every orator spoke for this same allotted time. The clepsydra was made up of two large vases, one above the other, and a small tube. The tube poured water into the bottom vase over the course of 6 minutes. Then the vases were switched and the process repeated itself. In addition to keeping the time at assembly meetings, clepsydrae were also important in courts of law, where they ensured both the prosecution and the defense had equal time to speak. Right on. And that's what those things are. Aha. 2 out of 5. Wait, how do I get out there? Uh-oh.
While some citizens only participated in the sessions of the Ecclesia, others could become more involved in democracy as magistrates. Magistrates were elected from among Athenian citizens over 30. They were often successful orators and charismatic politicians, and they held much more sway over important decisions than the average citizen. One of the most famous magistrates was Pericles, who was so popular, he held his position for 15 years.
Ooh. I guess they didn't have age limits. Ooh, let's learn about this. Or term limits. Pericles' funeral oration, penned by Philip Fultz before 1877. In theory, the Athenian democracy was supposed to give the laborers as much power as aristocrats, but in practice, the influence of the nobility remained strong, as it is today. This is mostly because aristocrats had more resources available to them when it came to forging political alliances and maintaining their prestige. As a result, many elected officials in the 5th century BCE belonged to the aristocracy. For example, even though the statesman Pericles championed many reforms that limited the power of aristocrats, he himself belonged to the Alcmaeonidae. Powerful family that claimed to be the descendant from the Homeric hero Nestor. After the death of Pericles in 429 BCE, a new breed of leaders emerged who did not belong to old nobility. Instead, they were wealthy merchants who earned their fortunes from trade or small factories rather than from land. Their opponents called these new leaders demagogues, meaning leaders of the common people. One of the earliest and well-known demagogues was Cleon, who gained popularity by advocating for policies that benefited the general population, such as paying people for jury duty. He was also famous for taking a very aggressive stance against Sparta during the Peloponnesian War, and for attempting to remove his opponents from office by accusing them of false charges. Dude, just like today. It's so crazy. How do I get up there? No. Or did I already do that one? Wait, did I do? Okay, how do I jump with this thing? Ooh, ostracism. Ostraco with the name of Pericles, Cimon, and Miltiades. Miltiades, amongst the other names. 5th century BCE. One of the Athenian. Ooh, I see where it says Cimon. One of the. What do you guys think you're eating? You want to play with that? Okay, go ahead. One of the Athenian democracy's unique features was the practice of ostracism. Originally implemented to prevent the rise of another tyrant, ostracism involved the temporary exiling of Athenian by his fellow citizens. Damn, dude, that's savage. I think we should bring that back. Hey. How's it going? Every year, citizens would vote in the assembly over whether or not an ostracism would take place. If they voted yes, another vote would later be held in the agora to determine which citizen would be ostracized. Each citizen wrote the name of the potential candidate on a fragment of pottery called an ostraka. If more than 6,000 votes were cast, the person who was named most frequently had 10 days to leave the city, after which he would remain in exile for 10 years. Damn! That's freaking savage. That's way savage. I'm good. I just got this new controller, got this new game. Life's pretty good. You know? I'm liking this one. I'm just doing the tours, the discovery tours around Athens so far. Learning stuff before I really get into the game. Alright, let's see. From 487 BCE to 415 BCE, a number of prominent Athenians were ostracized for a variety of reasons. Relatives of Hippias, the last tyrant of Athens, were exiled after they were suspected of wanting to overthrow the city's democracy. The general Gimon, meanwhile, was ostracized for pursuing an unsuccessful policy of friendship with Sparta, but perhaps the most famous ostracism was that of Themistocles. Themistocles, a general renowned for his exemplary service in Greco-Persian wars. Dang. Oh, really? Oh, shoot. Damn, that's savage. That's crazy. Okay. Oops. Oh. Oh, okay, cool. I can take a picture. That's neat.
In theory, every Athenian citizen over the age of 20 had the right to participate in the assembly.
Hi, Twilight.
However, some of them lived far from the city, and others could not financially afford to miss a day of work to attend meetings. For these reasons, the city introduced a special allowance called a misthos ecclesiasticos in the 4th century BCE, meant to encourage participation. Originally, it was 2 obols, but the politician Cleon raised it to 3.
Ooh, let's learn more. An Athens obol. In Aristophanes' play Acarnanians, Athenian citizens were so disinterested in democracy that they deserted the Pnyx to loiter in the agora. To combat this complacency, a group of slaves wandered the city, herding the citizens back to the Pnyx using ropes dyed with red paint. Any citizen who tried to escape was marked with the paint and then fined for refusing to participate in democracy. Dang, dang. While the story is an exaggeration, the city did actually close its shops and attempt to funnel people to the Pnyx on days when the assembly was meeting. This is because in the 5th century BCE, Athens had great difficulty convincing its citizens to attend the assembly. However, the situation changed in the 4th century BCE when citizens started getting paid for attending meetings, which helped compensate for any lost working hours. The Pnyx was also enlarged to include up to 8,500 citizens, 8,500 citizens, and was later enlarged again to fit around 13,000 citizens. Dang. Clearly, money was a better motivator than red rope. Yes. Usually is. That's probably why we get paid for jury duty today. Oh, what's that? Bust of Pericles. 100 elected... Huh? 100 elected magistrates. That's at the British Museum. Pericles. I think they said that the nose was added on because it broke off originally. Looks like it's been added on. It's a different color. Alright, anyway. While Athens did not have a bureaucracy in place to permanently run the city and the rest of its empire, it did elect more than 1,000 officials every year to manage its affairs. Most of these officials had very minor responsibilities and therefore only worked part-time. The vast majority of officials were chosen by lot. but the most important ones were elected by popular vote in the Athenian assembly. In both cases, citizens who wished to hold one of the positions had to first nominate themselves. Citizens had to be 30 years old to qualify for an official position, and even then they could still be dismissed. Despite these limitations, however, up to 5% of all Athenian citizens were appointed or elected to official positions on a yearly basis, or become part of the Council of 500. Depending on the year, up to 100 officials were elected. The most important of these were the 10 generals, or strategoi. The generals were officially in charge of military matters, but over the course of the 5th century BCE, their influence expanded to political matters as well. For example, Pericles was elected general 15 times between 443 and 429 BCE, and used that time to cement his hold on Athenian politics. Aha. Makes sense. Wait, where's the... Oh, those are the magistrates.
Athens introduced several innovations that heavily influenced modern society, including theater, architecture, and philosophy. However, their greatest contribution was their democratic government, which introduced the concept of a city ruled by its citizens. The decision to adopt democracy as a government, a choice made in 508 BCE, shaped civilization as we know it and continues to affect us today.
It's messy, but it works. Statues of Tyrannides, Harmodius, and Aristogiton. Roman. Oh. Ooh, okay. Let's learn more. In 1792, American revolutionary Thomas Paine wrote in The Rights of Man that what Athens was in miniature, America will be in magnitude. Damn. While modern democracies are much larger and more complex than that of Athens, they both share many qualities. For example, just as Athens' democracy was born out of reaction to the tyranny of Peistratos and his sons, most influential Western democracies were also reactions against perceived tyranny. Yes, we are still perceiving tyranny. Such as the American colonies revolting against the British, or the French revolutionaries fighting against the old regime. But perhaps the most enduring part of its Athens democracy is the idea that political power rests with the people. This central concept was preserved by Greek philosophers and historians under Roman rule, passed on to medieval scholars, and championed by the modern political activists who laid the foundations for current systems of government. Yes. I wonder if people really walked around naked.
Hello again, Wanderer. I trust you appreciated learning about the inner workings of the city. Is there anything else you'd like to do? Then let's start with a simple question.
I'm ready for the quiz.
Approximately how many citizens were in Athens in my time?
Oh. That one.
Yes, there were approximately 30,000 citizens in Athens, although the population as a whole was much larger. On to the second question. Who of the following was a famous Athenian magistrate?
This one.
Yes, Pericles was an extremely popular magistrate who managed to keep his position for 15 years.
Pericles.
What does the word Pnyx mean?
Pnyx? That one.
Correct. The Pnyx was usually crowded with citizens attending meetings
The
at the
Phoenix.
Ecclesia.
I think it's time for a dab.
You know enough about democracy to be a politician yourself.
All right.
Well done, Wanderer. It would be my pleasure to take you to your next destination. Follow me.
All right. Oh, shoot. Cheers.
Welcome to Laconia, visitor. You're here to learn about Spartan society, yes? Then I won't stop you. My name is Leonidas. I am a king of Sparta. But do not think of me as some idle aristocrat softened by luxury.
Kind of.
When Spartans
Some of
go
them
to
I've missed a
war,
couple of the
I
questions.
stand alongside them, shield to shield, and my spear tastes the same blood as those of my men. Sparta is a glorious place, and you should feel honored to be here.
Oh, I am.
And perhaps somewhat frightened.
No, not frightened.
My name is Leonidas.
Oops.
I am a king of... When Spartans...
That one.
Sparta had a unique hierarchy, especially compared to the rest of Greece. Everyone had their place, and you will soon learn what those places were. I will find you again once your visit has ended. Until then, visitor.
Massoa was one of the 4 villages that united the 8th century BCE to form the Spartan city-state under the authority of 2 families of kings, the Eurypontids and the Aegiads. Eurypontids? Ooh. Ooh. I'm unlocking things already.
Spartan society was structured around austerity, self-sufficiency, and a hostility towards foreign elements. It was divided into 3 social classes: citizens, perioikoi, and helots. Citizens were called Spartans, or homoioi. They were free men and women with mostly equal rights and wealth, though their contributions to political life were extremely limited. Perioikoi lived in surrounding areas under Spartan control. They cultivated the land and were primarily merchants and craftsmen. They were also part of the army, and their lands were the first line of defense in the event of a hostile attack. Helots were Sparta's lowest class. They were people who had lost their freedom to the Spartans, and they served the city as slaves. Helots were considered property instead of people. As a result, they had no political or civil rights.
Ooh. Bronze feminine figure in Laconian style. Spartan society was puzzling not only to other ancient Greeks, but to modern historians, as historical sources are few and far between. In addition to the 3 main classes, Sparta's social system became even more complex in the classical period, with the addition of subgroups like the Hypomenioin, I don't know. The Brassideoi, the Mothakis, and the Neodamodias. Neodamodias, yes. The Neodamodias. Okay, so let me get that one. The other one. Hypomene Iones. Hypomene Iones? All of these groups were bound together not only by a fear of their brutal Spartan superiors, but also by the strict discipline that dictated life in Sparta. Those are some crazy names. Wait, so where am I? Wait, how do I get my... Oops. Oh, yeah. I guess I'm somewhere else. Mm-hmm. Gotcha. Okay. Hold what? No.
Helots made up the majority of Sparta's population. According to Polydeuces, they lingered between slavery and freedom. Two elements made Helots differ from other slaves. They were allowed to form their own families, and they were publicly owned by the city of Sparta instead of private citizens. Because Helots were deemed public property, they could not be sold as merchandise. They mostly worked to cultivate the land, but also fought in wars alongside the Spartans. While they gave the fruits of their labor to Sparta, they also kept a fair part of it for themselves. This practice allowed some Helots to make enough money to buy their own freedom. Alternatively, if a Helot served the state well enough in military campaigns, they could also be granted civil rights.
Ooh. Terracotta figurine of a peasant wearing a pilos and holding a basket. Ooh, is that the Louvre? According to Herodotus, the ratio of Spartans to Periokoi to Helots was approximately 1 to 3 to 7. Ooh. Modern historians, meanwhile, calculate that the population of Sparta in the 5th century BCE consisted of around 12,000 to 15,000 Spartans, 40 to 60,000 Periokoi, and 140,000 to 200,000 Helots. Interesting. While sources are contradictory, ancient writers like Herodotus, Thucydides, and Plutarch say that Helots and Spartans were at odds with each other. While Helots aided Spartans in battles and military campaigns, they also frequently carried out attacks against Sparta's citizens. Aristoteles even informs us that Helots were almost always prepared to take advantage of any misfortune that might befall their masters. At the same time, Spartans have often treated Helots with great cruelty. This is especially evident in an incident that occurred possibly a year after the Battle of Sphacteria? I don't know. In 424 BCE. According to Thucydides, the Spartans secretly slaughtered 2,000 Helots, all of whom disappeared without a trace. Damn. Savage. What's this stuff? Ooh. Flax? Is it flax?
The founding of Sparta is dated around the 9th century BCE. Historical information about the city is limited, but it was known to extend into the region of Laconia. Over time, Sparta started encroaching on the territory of Messenia, eventually leading to war. Sparta gained more land in this conflict, which they divided between their citizens and the Perioikoi.
Perioikoi.
The aftermath of the Second Messenian War, from 640 to 620 BCE, then divided the population into three groups: the Homoioi, the Perioikoi, and the Helots. The Helots of Laconia mostly respected Sparta's rule and did not cause much trouble. However, Helots from Messenia supposedly resisted the Spartans, although sources can only confirm one revolt for certain, which occurred in Messenia in 464 BCE.
Learn more about this painting. Oh. A Barbier. Uh-huh. This is also at the Louvre. Okay, Spartans deployed helots in military expeditions both to reinforce their soldiers and to prevent possible slave revolts back in Sparta. However, the later strategy did not always work. In 464 BCE, Laconia was hit with an earthquake that sources say killed approximately 20,000 Spartans. Dang. Maybe it was like the one in New York today. Seeing an opportunity, the Helots took advantage of the quake's aftermath and revolted. The revolt was so serious that 2 years later, in 462 BCE, Sparta was forced to appeal to their Peloponnesian allies as well as Athens for military aid. The Athenian general Cimon managed to assemble 4,000 hoplites to help the Spartans. However, the Spartans sent them away, worried that they would actually try to aid the Helots in an effort to undermine Sparta's power in the Peloponnese. The Spartans eventually quelled the revolt, but it greatly damaged the city's foreign policy and diplomatic relations, making it one of the greatest instances of social unrest in classical Sparta. Interesting. Okay. There's nothing.
During the 5th century BCE, Helots were quite active in the army, especially during the Peloponnesian War. They served as hoplites on land and as rowers during naval battles. In both cases, they gave Sparta an important numerical advantage. For every Spartan on the battlefield, there were at least 7 Helots. Although many ancient sources say Spartans had a hostile relationship with Helots, they were much more likely to treat them better in times of war. For example, when 300 Helots and 120 elite Spartans were captured by Athens during the Battle of Sphacteria in 425 BCE, the Spartans promised the Helots their freedom if they served them well in combat. Similarly, around the same time, the Spartan general Brasidas fought a battle alongside 700 Helots. Impressed by their courage and loyalty, Brasidas later freed them all and allowed them to join the Perioikoi.
Yeah, soldiers. Oh, interesting. Imagine painting that. Helots, who made great contributions in Spartan military campaigns, were dubbed Neodamodes. Neodamodes, and received their freedom, a unit of land, and possibly even political rights for their valiant efforts. Though the sources on them are vague, they numbered over 2,000 and participated in several Spartan campaigns during the classical period. The name Neodamodes suggests they were young people, Neon, who formed new political committees, demos. The implementation of the Neodamodes group was probably part of Spartan efforts to face the new social reality emerging in Greece during the second half of the 4th century BCE. Interesting. It's all interesting. It's all just so interesting. Can I talk to this person? Nope. Moving out of the way though.
Perioikoi were another group of Sparta's population. They lived not in the city itself, but in its surrounding areas. The Perioikoi were never hostile against the Spartans. In fact, both groups together were known by the collective name Lacedaemonians. Perioikic cities had their own autonomy and sanctuaries, but they were always bound to Sparta. They were allowed to develop their own local laws and economies, but could never reach a level of prosperity that rivaled their parent state.
Αμφιβολία έχω. Έμπορες άπαντες πολλούς παρεμπορεύματα. Και άπαντες...
The main factor linking Spartans and Perioikoi was military service. The Perioikoi played an important role in the army, often backing up the forces of the Homoioi as hoplites. Spartans and Perioikoi allegedly fought together in army divisions known as Lokoi. Lokoi? Thucydides' description of the Pylos campaign in 425 BCE mentions that of the 300 hoplites captured alive by the Athenians, only 120 were Spartans, and the rest were non-Spartans.
I see you finished. I hope you have a better appreciation for Spartan society. Nothing we do is without reason, and every man, woman, and child has a role to play. What would you like to do?
Yeah.
Is that so? Then let us begin. During which battle were Ilots promised their freedom?
That one?
Yes. In the Battle of Sphacteria, a group of elite Spartans promised to free their accompanying Ilots if they helped the Spartans during a siege.
I wish they did.
Next question. Which of the following is another name for Spartan citizens?
That one?
Spartan citizens were also called Omi, which meant equals. One final question. Which Spartan general freed 700 Ilots? Correct. Brasidas freed 700 Ilots as a reward for their exemplary military service. You passed. I'm impressed.
Thank you.
Of course. Follow me.
Okay. Dang. Oof. Laconia. these are all the different tours. Yeah, I could do that one.
Greetings, visitor. You stand in Sparta's political center, where all of the city's most important decisions were made. You should feel honored.
I do. Cool.
Sparta's political system was unique in the Greek world. While Athenians wasted hours on end whining and wagging their tongues at each other, Spartan kings made their decisions swiftly and deliberately. They preferred action over words. Come find me again when you finish your visit. We will speak more then. Farewell.
Oh yeah, she finds him sexy. I can tell.
Sparta's political system differed from most of Greece's. One of its most distinctive features was that it was ruled by two kings. These kings belonged to two separate dynasties, the Eurypontids and the Aegeads, both of which were said to be descended from Heracles. Both kings shared equal powers, and disputes between them required the intervention of special magistrates known as ephors. However, if one of the kings were more charismatic or experienced, they could influence the weaker king's choices.
Xenophon, who wrote the biography of Spartan. Oh, what was that sound? Agesilaus attests that the two kings and the ephors exchanged vows on a monthly basis. He writes that the ephors swore to preserve the kingship, but only on the condition that the kings followed the laws of Sparta. Originally, Sparta's two kings always came from different houses until the Hellenistic period, when Cleomenes III abolished the kingship of Sparta and placed his brother on the second throne.
Spartan kings had several responsibilities and functions. As lifetime magistrates, they were technically Sparta's priests and strategists, and their duties encompassed everything from politics to justice. Originally, both kings would lead military campaigns in times of war. However, from 507 BCE onwards, only one of the two kings could be head of the army. On the battlefield, kings were accompanied by 300 elite soldiers for protection. But being a king wasn't only about working and fighting. They enjoyed special privileges as well. Spartan kings lived at the expense of the city, owned royal estates in the surrounding Perioikic cities, and received the majority of the spoils of war. When they passed away, they were buried with special honors, and the population mourned them for a period of 10 days.
Dang. Wait, there are things back here, right? Kings of the Peloponnesian War. Ooh. Attic grave stele with a hoplite battle scene. Ooh. 4 Spartan kings played important roles in the Peloponnesian War. Archidamus II, his elder son Aegeus II, Pleistonanix, and his son Pausanias. In 464 BCE, Archidamus II managed to quell a Helot revolt following an earthquake that shook the city to its core. A few years later, in 445 BC, his double in kingship, Pleistoanax, was exiled for presumably taking a bribe from the Athenian statesman Pericles, someone Archidamus had previously been on friendly terms with. During the part of the Peloponnesian War, which is named the Archidamian War after Archidamus, the king marched against Attica in 431 BCE, 430 BC, and 428 BCE. He was succeeded by his son Aegeus II in 427-26 BCE, who was appointed a guardian because of his young age. Aegeus did not manage to invade Attica, but together with Pleistoanax, who had returned from exile, they signed a treaty with the Athenians in 421 BCE, known as the Peace of Nikias. During the third part of the war, it was Aegeus' decision to occupy Decelea, and control Athens' countryside as well as access to the Laurian mines. This move was crucial because Athens lost the possibility to mint coins with Laurian silver, restricting the city's ability to finance the war and pay for mercenaries, and contributing to Athens' eventual surrender in 404 BCE. Pausanias, meanwhile, was the king of Sparta, who laid siege to Athens in collaboration with the admiral Lysander, which culminated in Sparta's decisive victory in Aigos Potamoi in 405 BCE. Getting sleepy. Oh, Archidamus. This is King Archidamus. And one of the Athenian generals, Thucydides' historical writings, he described a debate between the Spartan king Archidamus and one of Sparta's ephors over whether or not the city should engage Athens and the Delian League in what would later become the Peloponnesian War. Surprisingly, Archidamus argued for a more cautious approach, stating that their enemies were numerous, well-funded, and more skilled when it came to naval engagements. He believed that Sparta would not be so hasty in picking a fight until it was more prepared. The ephor, meanwhile, appealed to the city's honor and said that the only response worthy of strong Spartans was to vote for war. Despite being the king, Archidamus' efforts to postpone the war were eventually overruled. Dang. Oh. Where am I supposed to go? Oh.
The kings of Sparta enjoyed many important religious honors. They were in charge of sacrifices, both during military campaigns and at home. The kings received double portions of the meat at all communal meals, and they were also the first to pour libations. They also personally conducted public sacrifices as priests, which helped remind their subjects of their divine connection to Heracles and Zeus.
I am curious. This is pointing at Pythians, the people who received prophecies from the Oracle of Delphi. Pythians were extremely important to Sparta as they received supposed foreknowledge that could help the kings prepare for military campaigns. Spartan kings were also believed to be descendants of Zeus. Because of this, they served as high priests of Zeus and enjoyed special privileges during religious rituals, as well as on the battlefield. Okay, so this is Sparta. This will probably be the last one I do for tonight.
The
I'm
Ephors,
getting tired.
or overseers, were 5 magistrates
Might do some
elected by the
Assassin's
Spartan
Creed
Assembly.
Saturday.
They were chosen from among Spartan citizens over 30 and served for 1 year with no possibility of re-election. The Ephors played a large part in administrating the city and were considered the most democratic agents in the Spartan political system. They had judicial power and ordered the dispatching of the Spartan army during wars. They also met and negotiated with representatives from other states, in addition to running the Agoge, the Spartan education system. While not as powerful as the two kings, the Ephors still held great sway over Sparta's affairs.
Alright. What's this drawing by Eugene Zelpa? Lycurgus, consulting the Pythia, drawing by Eugene Zelpa. There are 4 different theories about the origins of the Ephors. Ooh, excuse me. The first ties them to the lawgiver Lycurgus, who conceived them as guardians of the polity. The second proposes that they were formed by King Theopompus after the First Mycenaean War. According to the third theory, the Ephors were former administrative officers who took advantage of the king's absence during wartime to acquire more power for themselves. The last theory dates to the creation of the Ephors to the middle of the 6th century BCE and credits Cylon, an Ephor and one of the 7 sages of Greece, with forming a group meant to protect the people from the ambitions of the kings and the threat of tyranny. Although these theories are still discussed among researchers, it is generally agreed that the institution of Ephors probably appeared around the 8th century BCE, but only acquired its political purposes of defending the rights of the citizens in the 6th century BCE. This development made the Ephors the most democratic element of Sparta's political system. I'm getting tired. Like, real tired. Oh, hey, look, they got poppies. Yeah.
The Gerousia was the Spartan Council of Elders. It was made up of the 2 current kings, as well as 28 elders called Gerontes. They were Spartan citizens over the age of 60, the cutoff age for military duty. They were elected for life by the Spartan Assembly. The Gerousia, similar to Athens' Boulé, handled legislative and financial matters. It could submit bills and motions to the Assembly, and could also cancel Assembly decisions with the power of veto. To ensure that the right of veto did not weaken the Assembly, Ephors were introduced to keep the Gerousia in check and maintain a steady balance of power. This allowed Sparta to include more just elements in its political system.
A checks and balances of sorts. Lycurgus, showing the heir to the throne to the Gerousia. Alexandre Delis, Abel de Pujol. According to Plutarch, the Great Petra was a Delphic oracle brought to the Spartan by Lycurgus, the legendary lawgiver. The oracle allegedly gave Lycurgus that eunomia good laws of Sparta, a term that has been erroneously used to describe the Spartan constitution. However, various sources indicate the eunomia was not a constitution and instead mainly alluded to citizens obeying Sparta's laws. In more general sense, the Great Retret referred to changes and modifications of existing constitutions and institutions in the Spartan government. While its exact origins are unknown, the text suggested the people should be divided into pili, tribes, and obi, vague territorial subdivisions. Interesting. It also outlines Sparta's constitutional body in detail, including references to the Gerousia's probulitic power and their right to exercise veto when required. The Great Retret seems to have empowered the people of Sparta, providing hoplites with the political power to contribute to the government. This power helped avert tyranny, which was common in the other cities of the Archaic period, where famous tyrants such as Phaedon of Argos, Orthagoras of Sicyon, and Kypselos of Corinth imposed their rule. Oh, there's one up there. We'll do that one. Paroikoi in commerce. The Perioikoi were indigenous non-Spartan freemen who lived in the periphery of Sparta, but did not have political rights. But the Perioikoi, they formed autonomous communities and developed local economies because, unlike the Spartans, they engaged in commerce and manufacturing. In other words, while Spartans concentrated on war, the Perioikoi focused on everything else. They could be carpenters, merchants, farmers, and fishermen, and among many other professions. Their dependency on Sparta did now allow them to develop a proper economy, but at the same time they aided the Spartans by allowing them to concentrate on military matters. It is also believed that the Perioikoi procured of the metals and crafted the arms the Spartans used in battle. Interesting.
The Spartan Assembly, or the Apella, was made up of Spartan citizens who were over 30 years old. Its exact meeting place remains unknown, but it was presided over by a special member of the Ephors called the eponymous Ephor. The Apella had limited authority, since any decision... But thanks to the efforts of the Ephors, it still played an important role in Spartan society. The Apella dealt with topics like foreign affairs, war declarations, peace negotiations, and more. They also elected Ephors and Gerousia members, and could both grant political rights to foreigners and remove them from Spartan citizens. Unlike the myriad sources on the functions of the Athenian Assembly, the exact details of the Apella's decision-making process are unknown.
Ooh, okay, let's learn about the Spartan Assembly. Ooh, the Acropolis of Sparta. Oh, the remnants of the theater. Lycurgus, the legendary lawgiver of Sparta who supposedly lived in the middle of the 8th century BCE, is a figure who lingers between history and myth. Lycurgus is mentioned in many ancient authors such as Herodotus, Xenophon, and Plutarch, which is not certain if he actually existed or if he's a symbolic figure attached to the reform of the social and political institution of Sparta. In Lycurgus' biography, Plutarch mentions the lawgiver traveled in Crete, Asia Minor, and Egypt. He then returned to Sparta before visiting the oracle at Delphi to receive Sparta's new laws. Plutarch writes that after bringing the reforms to Sparta, Lycurgus returned to Delphi to make sacrifice to Apollo. This is the last time any of the sources mention him. Ooh. He sacrificed himself to Apollo.
I see you finished. I hope you feel more knowledgeable about the inner workings of Spartan politics. Our way of ruling was not conventional, to say the least, but it served our purpose as well. What would you like to do? Are you? We shall see. Let's begin.
Okay.
What was the name of the Spartan Assembly?
That one?
Correct. The Spartan Assembly was known as the Apella. Question 2. How many members did the Yerosia have? Yes, the Yerosia consisted of 28 Yerondas and the 2 kings of Sparta. Last question. What was the name of the Spartan education program?
Oh.
Correct. Our rigorous education program was called the Agogi, and it was
Agogi.
overseen by the Air Force. You've done well, Visitor. Very well.
All right. I think that's gonna be it for now.
Farewell,
It's getting
Visitor. May
tired.
your travels
I'm
be
getting
safe
tired.
and carefree.
Alrighty. Oh my goodness. Okay, yeah, I'm getting tired. Well, thank you for watching. Thank you for following. If you've given us a follow, please give us a follow. Kitties love follows. Please visit our website, officialcatlady.com. We do have new t-shirts in, new design with a new cute kitty. So, check them out. Thank you again for watching. Have a good night.